Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday Recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a bit about my last week in games. As always, we'll start with EVE Online and I'm back to a more normal average amount of playing the game. So I've had a lot of fun exploring in the last week and this time it has been with the Ortrus. So I have an Exploratrus or an Ortrus that I call the Exploratrus, which I do enjoy flying, but it still has that one problem, is that it feels a little bit slow. So it feels basically like a brick, which means that it has a big advantage as well. It's got this nice big brick tank which allows you to very comfortably do any of the sides that are available in highsec, and especially when you're diving for the loot, let's say in a 4 out of 10 or in a vigil. I mean, they can get to maybe 50% HP or something like that if you're a little bit unlucky, but they can, there's just no way that they're gonna break that tank. You feel super safe in the thing, but it's a little bit slower than what I'm used to, and so it has both an advantage and a disadvantage. Still, I enjoyed it. I got some nice loot out of exploring with the Ortrus as well, and so I would say I've had a pretty good week exploring in EVE Online. Next up, Amsterdam. So there I was basically getting ready to watch the keynote like 15 minutes before that. Stream was still offline, so looked like they had some technical difficulties, and as a result I only saw part of the keynote, but there's also a Reddit post that shows, I think, some of the more important announcements that they made there, like the new Triglavian ships look pretty interesting, with, if I'm not mistaken, a command destroyer, an assault cruiser and an assault frigate as well. So they're definitely working hard on getting the Triglavians more ships, an entire ship line, and I also read in the comments that basically the Triglavians are meant to become a new race in EVE Online, not just a pirate faction or something like that, but something that they're really going to try to develop quite heavily. So looking pretty good. There's been more announcements there as well, but they also said that they held back in the announcements because they want some for keynotes on the other locations of the world tour that CCP is holding for EVE Online at the moment. So it's looking pretty interesting, and to me, well, I look forward to any lore stuff when it comes to the Triglavians. So we have all of these interesting scope videos with apparently the Triglavians building some pretty big ships in Abyssal Dead Space and planning to, I don't know, go to war with the Sancha, with the Drifters, what's happening all of over there. Very interesting stuff. Looking forward to how CCP is actually going to implement and bring us that story in game. Next up, we have Path of Exile. So in the first part of the week I still played a decent amount of Path of Exile. I've been mapping and made my way to level 86. I also got a couple of yellow maps. I think it's like from tier 6 that they look yellow, and I think after that at a certain tier you also get red maps. So I haven't made my way there, but I have to be honest as well, it starts to feel super grindy at this point, and not really my cup of tea. I also don't have the gear, the life pool to really comfortably still do the bosses there, so it's very difficult to make progress at this point without, I don't know, having like a very concrete plan about uniques that you need for your build or something like that, which I don't really have for my Arc Totem hero punt at the moment. So I'm a bit stuck basically in Path of Exile. I'm not sure how much more effort I want to put into that character. My inventory is basically full of uniques at this point. I have to say, doing maps, you do get a lot of drops there, lots of currency dropping, lots of uniques dropping, and well, if you're looking for gear that can, for instance, provide you with a lot of resistance, that works as well, but overall really making and finding good upgrades that are gonna, you know, help you out in general becomes quite a bit harder, and so I'm stuck with lots of stuff in my inventory and not really sure how to progress from this point on, and also not really sure if I want to put in the effort to get into the level 90s and things like that, because that is going to take a hell of a lot of time, and I'm not sure that I want to put that into Path of Exile at the moment. So I feel like I've been going decently hardcore. I have definitely learned some extra stuff as well, but I also feel like if you want to get into that very end game, stuff like red maps, do Elder, I've seen some of that on streams that I watch from time to time, then yeah, you need basically a full plan. This time I had a skill build and I had my preferred skill that I knew how to focus around, then I got some cost on damage taken, defensive stuff to make my way into the maps, but for that very end game you basically also need a very specific plan when it comes to the gear that you're going to try to get When it comes to enchanting, crafting, all of that stuff, you need the full package to really get to that very end game of Path of Exile, in my opinion, and I don't really have that at this point. Which brings me to the third game, and that is Total War Warhammer 2. So I pulled the trigger and I bought the base game for around 20 euros, 66% off. This was on the recommendation of some of the viewers from the previous Eve talk, and yeah, I don't regret it for one moment. I've been playing it since, let's say, the latest half of the week, and I've been having quite a bit of fun so far, just exploring the game. So I'm not playing anything too hardcore. I am basically trying out what I think came out with the very first start of the base game, where you have 4 races, I think, like High Elves, Dark Elves, the Skaven, and then the Lizard people, I'm gonna call them. I tried those guys first, very interesting. And I definitely used them well to try to get through the tutorial, understand some of the basic aspects of the game, but they felt quite complex with their strange web that they have that you need to rebuild and things like that. So I tried the exact opposite. What I felt would be pretty simple to play was the Skaven, the rat people. Just lots and lots of troops, overwhelm your opponent. Sounded like a good plan, but they have an annoying food mechanic that makes it pretty hard to maintain large armies unless you constantly try to look for fights and things like that. So I'm not sure how that went. Yeah, basically I went in with an alliance with another faction, and those guys just started declaring war left and right, and I eventually got stomped by the sand zombies. I'm not sure what to call them exactly, because I haven't bought that DLC just yet. But so far, yep, lots of fun, and then now what I'm on is like a third try, which is with what I think is gonna turn out to be the easiest way to play the High Elves. They basically have very strong shields and spears that can keep the enemy at bay, and then very strong archers as well. So I think that those guys are the first ones where I really will try to play a little bit further along into the campaign, which so far also seems to have a very interesting story to it. And so my very first impressions basically for Total War Warhammer 2 is that I will have a lot of fun with that game. I'll very easily get the 20 hours out of the game that I expect for a $20 purchase, for me not to regret it. And yeah, looking pretty good. Looking forward to sharing some of those moments with you guys as well. I'm not really sure how I will cover that, because, well, playing just bit of a campaign can be hours and hours on end, and there's not really the type of videos that I want to make, but perhaps some cool battles and things like that might be on the menu for Total War Warhammer 2. And that was my last week in games, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.